teach you about the rank structure for enlisted personnel on the United States Navy. My name is Katie Chapman, and I was in the Navy for 4 years. I got out of the Navy as a MA3, or Master at Arms, 3rd Class Petty Officer. Before we get started, there are some few facts that you should know about the United States Navy. First of all, the birthday of the Navy is October 13th in 1775. The saying for the Navy is Semper Fortis, which means always strong. Our colors are dark navy blue and white, and our mascot is Bill the Goat. Alright, now let's get started. The first rank of enlisted personnel is an E1, also known as the Seaman Recruit. It's the lowest enlisted rank, and it has a single bar insignia that was only used until 1996. After that, they got rid of the single bar insignia, and so now you can identify a Seaman Recruit because they will have no rank whatsoever on any part of their uniform. An E2 is a Seaman Apprentice. It's the second lowest rank in the United States Navy, and it takes about 9 months to become a Seaman Recruit from the time you're a Seaman Apprentice from the time you're a Seaman Recruit. You can see right here, there are two silver bars. That goes on your collar, on your khaki uniform, or the 2 gold bars on a dress uniform will go on your arm. An E3 is a seaman in the United States Navy. It's the 3rd lowest rank in the Navy, and it takes about 6 months to achieve. There is no test to become a seaman in the United States Navy. You can see here that it has 3 diagonal stripes on the uniform. On the collar, it would be 3 silver bars, just as it was as an E2 for a Seaman Apprentice. An E4, or Petty Officer 3rd Class, in the United States Navy has 1 single chevron. This is the first of the chevron series, or Petty Officer series. Every Petty Officer in the United States Navy has a chevron under the eagle. A little known fact is the eagle faces the right side because the right side is considered the honor side. The left side is considered dishonorable, and that's not a good thing in the Navy. To become an E4, you have to advance by a test that is given every 6 months. Every 6 months, a test is given. You earn points for every time you do not become advanced to an E4. Obviously, more things take effect, such as your evaluation, that is given by your Chief Petty Officer every 6 months as well. As an E4, you start to get responsibility, and that's when you serve as a leader for technical support over a unit. An E5 Petty Officer 2nd Class, as you'll notice, has 2 chevrons. The eagle still faces the right. E5, or 2nd Class Petty Officer, is a junior commissioned officer. They serve also as a leader, and they have a little bit more responsibility than the E4. Promotion is based on a specialty test as well. That's given every 6 months. How you would address an E5 is Petty Officer 2nd Class or just Petty Officer. Same goes for a Petty Officer 3rd Class. On paper, it would be written PO2 for Petty Officer 2nd Class. An E6 is a Petty Officer 1st Class. This is the last rank of the petty officers. As you'll notice, there is now 3 chevrons under the eagle. The eagle still faces right because it's the honorable thing to do. An E6 serves as a non-commissioned officer. It is a leader and a technical expert. It usually leads its division or its section. An LPO is considered the leading petty officer, and what they do is they're in charge of everything that goes on. Other E6s or E5s and everything else under a division or a section at that time for that shift will be under and answer to the LPO. The LPO, the leading petty officer, which is usually a petty officer first class, is the first one to answer to the chief when something goes wrong. When stuff goes right, they also answer to the chief. You can see here, this is just random, but a picture of an E6 re-enlisting underwater. Little known fact, when you re-enlist in the United States Navy, you're allowed to re-enlist however you would like to do it. Many people choose to do it skydiving or scuba diving or even just over a dinner and pizza. A chief petty officer is an E7 in the United States Navy. In the enlisted ranks, it's considered one of the most honorable and highest achievements an enlisted person can make. It's the first of the chief petty officer ranks, and as you can tell, their rank symbol is an anchor with the letters USN right in front of it. Their anchor can be seen on top of their covers, which is another word for a hat or a cap in the United States Navy. Their anchors can also be seen on their belt right here, although it's hard to see, but on their belt buckle will be an anchor with the letters USN. Same goes for their collars. Their rank is also on their collars of their khaki uniform. A chief has more powers and duties than other enlisted personnel. As I said before, the LPO, or the leading petty officer, will end up having to answer to the chief. The chief is in charge of everything below him or her. They also are entitled to more things than other enlisted personnel, such as on a ship, like a carrier or destroyer. They have their own private living quarters and they get their private mess hall. Even on shore-based commands, they have their own private mess hall, or it's called the Chief's Mess. No one under an E7 rank is allowed to go in there. No E6s, no E5s, no one is allowed to go in there unless you have an anchor on your uniform. The difference between a chief to become a chief and to become other enlisted personnel is that to become a chief, not only are you being constantly evaluated as you are with other enlisted ranks, but you have to pass a review board by your peers. This is extremely difficult, and your peers must give you the power to become chief. Chiefs are also responsible for training sailors and other personnel. They're the ones who end up leading everyone below them. In E8, a senior chief petty officer is responsible for administrative leadership more than anything. They make sure that all the paperwork goes to the right people, and they're in charge of controlling shifts and all of that. Everyone answers to the E8, even the chiefs. Unlike the other ranks, the senior chief petty officer doesn't have to take a test to get promoted. They're also recommended based on their peers. However, their peer reviews isn't just whether they're a good leader, but it's about their responsibility and their skills out in the field as well. To become a senior chief petty officer, it's extremely difficult. And you can see by the rank, it's the same anchor as a chief with the same letters, USN, but it has one silver star on top. That's the significance of a senior chief petty officer. An E9 is a Master Chief Petty Officer. An E9 is the highest rank achievable to enlisted personnel. Less than 1% of all people who serve in the United States Navy are able to achieve a Master Chief Petty Officer, the rank of an E9. They are usually the most respected in their rate. A rate is also a job in the United States Navy. As you can see here in this picture, they have a lot of chest candy, that's what we call it, or a lot of ribbons. It takes a long time to achieve as many ribbons as a Master Chief does. You can see here by the rank insignia that a Master Chief is the same as a chief and a senior chief with an anchor. However, it has 2 silver stars at the very top. So that's that with Master Chief Petty Officer.
How long does it take to get to be a Master Chief?
It takes approximately around 15 years to become a Master Chief Petty Officer. It's a very hard process, and as I said before, they're the most respected personnel. They're usually the ones in charge of commands. So to become a Master Chief, your other Master Chiefs and above have to make sure that you're ready to take on that responsibility to handle an entire command.
Okay.
All right, are there any questions?
What color are the Navy's uniforms? I see there's several different ones.
That's a very good question. The Navy has several different uniforms indeed, and although they're not all posted here, we have the Navy working uniform, which is the NWUs, or the blue digis, as you can see right here. That's the uniforms that now you are issued in boot camp. Here are the dress whites. This is probably what people most commonly think of when they think of the Navy, is the sailor's dress whites. Everyone is issued a pair, and everyone wears them for ceremonies, or if you go off base, you're supposed to be in your dress whites. You can also be worn in just blue or green woodlands, which is what the Army used to wear, but the Navy still issues them. The Navy also issues several other uniforms, such as the Air Force and the Army or Marine Corps. The only difference is, even though you're wearing their digital uniform, on your badge right here it'll say U.S. Navy instead of United States Marines. Very good question. Any others?
Is there a difference between officer uniform and enlisted uniform?
Yes. An officer's uniform is pure khaki, and they have gold or silver bars on the top instead of anchors. An officer's uniform actually looks very similar to a chief. However, their cover or their cap is different, and the rank is different.
So how many uniforms do you think the Navy has altogether?
Probably at least 15 different uniforms.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yes, it is.
I have another question.
Okay.
Can enlisted become an officer?
Yes. Enlisted can become an officer, in fact, and it's the way that's addressed on paper is EO1 for enlisted enlisted officer 1. Enlisted would have to put in a package and get accepted. If they get accepted, then they have to go to OCS, which is Officer Candidate School. There are also several other ways around it in several programs, but OCS is the most common way for enlisted personnel to become an officer. Usually, if enlisted do become an officer, they become what's called a Chief Warrant Officer, which is a CWO. A Chief Warrant Officer, the difference between a Chief Warrant Officer and a regular officer is the fact that a Chief Warrant knows any and everything about that specific job, or his or her rate. They're the ones who know absolutely everything and can point anyone in the right direction because they are in complete control, along with the Master Chief, of what's going on that job with the base.
Okay, great. Thanks.
All right. That concludes our Navy enlisted ranks. Have a good day.